I believe that Arsenal are going to win the league, but I don't think it's a prerequisite that they sign Ivan Toney. I don't think they need Ivan Toney to win the league. I think if you look at the way that Arsenal play, if you look at the setup, if you look at the way Mikel Arteta wants his team to play, it isn't reliant upon one obvious goal scorer. So they don't need an Ivan Toney. I mean, everybody...
There's something about moments. You know, I think you've always said this about Haaland for me. And every time me and you've gone back and forth with Haaland, you say, yeah, he didn't score in the Champions League and he didn't score in the FA Cup final. You need that big game player to have big moments. And I do wonder if Arsenal, maybe back end of last season, needed someone for those moments. And if Ivan Toney could bridge the gap. So look, you're right. I mean, they spread their goals out. But moments, big games, could Ivan Toney be the difference in those really big games?
If you were to try and isolate where Arsenal are lacking, so if they don't win the league, why do you believe they won't win the league? I don't think a lack of goals is their issue. I think they have goals in the team. I think they have a decent deputy in Eddie Nketiah. I think Gabriel Jesus is one of the best in the world at what he does in terms of being a pressing forward and playing a system. Gabriel Jesus is fantastic at that. I think there's loads of goals in the team. If you think about the way that they attack, they attack in a sort of four-pronged, effervescent, interchangeable front four. There's goals galore in that team.
What about your argument? And you did this with Raya and Ramsdale. Strength from the position of strengthening. So if you can get stronger in a position, do you just do it? So even if it's only a 5% increment, right? A 5% increase in Nketiah or Gabriel Jesus, do you do it because you can do it? And could that make the difference?
Well, sometimes it could, but other times it could cause more problems.
Is Ivan Toney better than Gabriel Jesus? Is that a conversation?
At what?
Number 9 through the middle. Who's better? Who's the better number 9?
I think Ivan Toney will score more goals. That doesn't necessarily mean that he's conducive to better system play. It doesn't necessarily mean that Arsenal are a better team without Gabriel Jesus in the team.
Okay, I feel like we're going around here, but if you could just have one then, one up front, who are you having?
For Arsenal, in this Arteta system, Gabriel Jesus.
Okay.
You?
Ivan Toney.
Do you think Ivan Toney does all of the other stuff?
Yeah, I like the way he drops into the hole as well, Ivan Toney. Doesn't rely on pace, intelligent footballer. He just seems like an Arsenal player.
Do you think Arsenal win the league?
Fans are not going to be happy with hearing
Do you think Arsenal win the league this year?
No.
Do you think they don't win the league because they don't have enough goals?
Yeah.
Well, you think the goals are the issue for Arsenal?
No,
or just that goal scorer?
That goal scorer. I think they'll share them, won't they? I think they'll share them, and they share them well. And look, I haven't got the stats in front of me, but I guess Saka will get your usual 12 to 15. Everyone will chip in.
Yes.
Do they have a guy that's going to get 30?
But you know when it went wrong for them at the end of last year? So wherever you pinpoint it going wrong for them, it went wrong at Upton Park at the London Stadium.
Ivan Toney takes that penalty that Saka misses.
Right, but the reason the reason that they lost that game, it wasn't the issue scoring. They went away to Anfield. They were 2-0 up. It went wrong for a myriad of reasons. But it wasn't because they couldn't score the goals. They were 2-0 up at Anfield. That is the very definition of being a title challenger, isn't it? It's actually the very definition of being a title winner if you're 2-0 up at Anfield at the business end of the season.
Does Ivan Toney get them more points?
He gets them more points when Gabriel Jesus is injured. He scores more goals than Eddie Nketiah. But you know how you used the Aaron Ramsdale, David Raya example? I think you could argue that that's caused more problems than it solved. Bringing in Ramsdale, strengthening a position of strength, has caused more problems than it solved. Let's see this theory through, and of course I'm going to position this to suit my argument in the negative way. You bring in Ivan Toney, Gabriel Jesus, then what? Drops to the bench, gets pushed out wide.
Maybe
it has an impact on Bukayo Saka.
He played well out wide for Man City for so many years.
Yes,
well out wide.
He did, but the reason he left is because he wanted to be a centre forward. I don't necessarily think that Arsenal need Ivan Toney. I also, just for total transparency here, I'm a Chelsea fan who would love Chelsea to sign Ivan Toney. So I'm gonna not let that cloud my judgment. But overall, I think Toney's a brilliant player. Will be a credit to any club that he goes to. I think he will score bundles of goals wherever he goes. My only reservation about suggesting that he needs to go to Arsenal is because I think Arsenal have goals in the team already.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.